Hi, thanks for watching. Okay, this is the second video I want to do on the sort of like developing a meaningful mindfulness program. Okay, so basically, hopefully you can watch the first one because that really kind of sets up this one. All right, so basically, I don't focus on symptoms in personality disorders. I focus on the root situation, which is that we get too absorbed in our activated states. Okay, we need to learn how to not always fall so much absorbed into activated states. So it's kind of like learning kind of mindfulness around activation, allowing ourselves to have activation, but also to understand the valleys between the peaks. The peaks mean nothing without the valleys, and the valleys also have something to teach us. The resting state between activated states, we need to explore that more because that will teach us to sort of hear the birds chirping, hear the breeze, maybe get into a different mind space and to have more dimension. So we can also have our peaks. But if you're always living in the peak experience, you're just going to burn yourself out. And that's really, you're sort of, there's a whole half of your life that you're killing without even realizing it. And that may be a good part of your life that you're sort of throwing away, without realizing it. So, so basically, the thing I talked about in the first part of this idea of developing a mindfulness program, an effective mindfulness program. The first thing is to have structure in the sense of being able to prevent in advance or to minimize the risk of losing a job, losing friendships, or losing relationships. That's very important. We have to approach employment as sacred. If we have a job, no matter what that job is, even working at McDonald's, working as a cashier, call center, whatever, take that so seriously because losing employment for us is really activating, and it really, I think, it just makes us 10 times worse. So we really have to make it sacred that we will be good contributors. That's the idea. Contributor. I'm a contributor, and it means everything that I'm part of this team contributing. Okay, who cares what it does to the ego? Just do it. Just be a good contributor and be an awesome contributor. Don't be a superstar because a superstar can sometimes just steal the thunder and disrupt the chemistry of the organization. It's more just a contributor, just a silent, dependable contributor. That's the thing. Be silent about it. Just do it. Be a good contributor. That's so important. And then the other thing is also in the day to day, learning actually how to manage the actual activations that we have. Okay. Well, I wanted to add something. Not just be a good contributor in work, but also approach friendships and relationships as also a contributor. Those are the things that make a difference. Contributing, have that mentality, contribution. But then, yes, okay, so then as we get into actually managing our activations, we will never really become experts at the peaks if we don't also know the valleys between the peaks. You see what I mean? We have to know the whole geography, not just the high spots, but also the low spots. The valleys are important too. So we need to understand the resting places between activated states. Okay, there's resting places between activated states. We need to understand the whole spectrum. That's our territory. Our territory is not just the high peaking; it's everything. Not so that's so important. And I think, so many of us in the borderline and the NPD, we're just so attached to the peak experience, whatever peak emotion, whatever. We need to not be so afraid and get over that phobia. And we have to be brave about it. There's bravery, there's courage. Just like, when a drug addict finally says, I'm going to give up the drugs, and that hurts, man. That hurts to give that up. We have to have the same bravery to give up that peak and go into the valleys and learn the valleys. Just, I think we're so parallel to the drug, to the people in addiction recovery, whether it's drug addiction, sex addiction, whatever, gambling. We have so much in common because we're willing to, at some point, maybe give up living only at the high and learn to find the valleys because there's so much in us that we destroy when we don't know the valley between the peaks. You can't live on a sugar high. And if you believe you can live on a sugar high, you are believing that is deluded. I mean, that is deluded. That is when you develop almost like an ideology to match your insanity, you know. And we need to be careful because some people, they want to develop even a reasoning to justify, being cluster B. And I think we need to be real careful not to justify. There's no justification for anything, good or bad. And I think we need to be careful that we could be invested in a justification for living in a sugar high. And that just is not good. I really urge people to realize it. It's just like coming to the, coming to coming to that realization, just like someone with an addiction issue. You got to get to that point where you're willing to broaden your life and have more experience than just living at peak sugar high, or dopamine, whatever. So it's really important for us to learn the valleys in between the peaks, okay? Not just to live in activation, but to learn the spaces between activation. And then when we are in activation, to learn to throw in different seasoning, okay? And the seasoning, like playfulness, make playfulness part, inject playfulness even into the most vicious attitudes you might have. You'd be amazed. I could have the most snobby, disgusted attitudes, whatever, but when it's playful, when I can throw playfulness into that, it really tempers it down and makes it more human. It really makes it more livable for the people around me and for me. And I don't feel so out of control, and that's good for my own self-esteem, because my self-esteem suffers unconsciously. We have terrible self-esteem when we get too caught up in these activated states. Why? Because there's something deep inside the human being that respects autonomy. Okay. And when we ourselves lose our autonomy because we're so caught up and absorbed in our activation, there's a part of us that loses respect for us. Okay. So in order to even have a little bit of self-esteem for ourselves, we have to have the autonomy not to get so swept away all the time. I mean, if we choose to get swept away in something, that's different, but we chose it, you see. But it's also important not to always be automatically absorbed in every activated state, okay? Because we'll lose our autonomy, and there's no way deep inside we can respect ourselves if we don't have some autonomy. And yeah, we may have to fight for it, we may have to develop it, but I believe autonomy is there for anybody who wants to take it seriously, okay? And learn not always to live in the sugar high and being a slave to the sugar high. Okay. When I say sugar high, I think everybody knows what I'm talking about, being activated. Okay. Whatever, whether positive or negative. Okay. But there's more to it. It's not just throwing playfulness, and it's not just learning the valleys in between the peaks. I mean, I do think that's very important. Got to know the valley in between the peaks. You got to know the resting spots between the activated states. And we also have to put playfulness into everything, even the most vicious angry, because that'll take the edge out. Okay. But that's not just that. We also have to develop real self-esteem, real quality healthiness. Okay. And that is just having a good job. It's important. You got to have a good job, and you got to be able to support yourself. Okay. So the basics, being able to put food on the table, being able to support yourself, that's very important. But on top of that, to have real self-esteem, I think we just need to generally have a good quality of life. Okay. And in my opinion, I think one of the most important things to have a quality of life is to have hobbies and pastimes that really are just part of the quality of life. And in my experience, I talk about gardening, cooking, taking walks, but also just maybe even developing just skills, just skills, just random skills. It's so good for the self-esteem. Somebody can say, I know how to make English muffins from scratch. How many people know how to make English muffins from scratch? It sounds crazy. And how many other things like that? Oh yeah, I can make sourdough bread, or, I can make excellent, I know how to grow squash or whatever, just stupid stuff. But, you know, not only learning how to do those things, or I'm really good at making compost, and also I'm really good at taking like plastic objects and making like flower pots, or whatever. I mean, just crazy, stupid things, but things that are kind of, you know, if they can be done with a lot of skill. Some people are really good at working with wood, or just crafting things, or artistic, whatever art, just making sculptures or painting, whatever. But it is so important to develop the pride, the honest pride, and the self-esteem of developing real skills, being really good in the kitchen. Also, like, I discovered one time that I'm really good, if I want to be, I'm actually really good at cleaning bathrooms. It sounds so stupid. When you're really good at cleaning a bathroom, you do it quickly, you do it well. There's self-esteem. I'm good at cleaning the floors. It sounds crazy, but we don't realize, we should try it. Just try it. Get good at things. And it's not just because of the ambition. It's not like a Jordan Peterson thing where, I'm a tough guy, I've got control. It's not about being tough. It's not about being in control. it's about having autonomy and developing self-esteem, and it is nice to be good at things, and it doesn't have to be this arrogant thing like I'm a dominant, the woman likes me because I'm powerful. No, it's just being good at stuff, just having a knack. It's like more on the artistic side, and I think that there's so much self-esteem to be gotten from that. And I just think of one example I have is I learned how to make English muffins. I said that at random, but it was kind of like an eye opener for me. Just all the different ways you can make bread, and the different way the bread will rise with the yeast and the techniques. Like I found a way to make English muffin using yogurt to make the dough. With the flour. It's just you learn that there's kind of like a magic to it, because you're transforming elements and you're taking just basic elements and you're making something really cool. And English muffins are kind of a cool, I don't know, kind of a cool way to make bread, but also a cool way to develop a skill. And there's so many skills we can have. Just being a good driver, being a better driver, learning how to just be more expert, and handling, being safer driver. Um, but just having general skills, because like say being a good reader. A lot of people don't realize that reading is actually not that easy. You have to really be good to read well. So maybe taking the trouble, maybe not to read the hardest books. Like I always say, take the difficulty level down a little bit. Don't go for like the hardest core literature, the fanciest. Just find a book like even detective fiction, but learn how to read really well. Don't read too fast, and just learn how to really take it in. And it's a skill. And because guaranteed, any skill you develop in one place will carry into some other place. So like say if you become a really good reader, a side effect might be that you become a really good storyteller, or you get better at organizing thoughts, and holding more thoughts, to communicate with people. So I really think it's important, just to kind of wrap this up, to develop a mindfulness is not just walking around being mindful. Okay, it is a kind of a structured program. Okay, and I do think that it involves several elements. One element is really safeguarding job, relationships, and friendships. Really safeguarding those things by being an awesome contributor and having an attitude of contribution, dedication, contribution to job, friends, and relationship. And also maybe don't be so ambitious about who you're hanging out with. Hang out with people that are maybe not so, maybe easier to hang out. Maybe even a job that's not so hard, so that you can really focus on the dedication and the contribution. Okay, to really make sure you don't end up unemployed. Okay, that's so important. The other thing is learning to manage our activated states. And the other thing too, for activated states, sometimes we need to learn how to deal with when we are activated. Okay, so when we're activated, a good example is, say, if somebody gets sexually excited. Okay, or if somebody gets really enthusiastic. Okay, maybe once in a while, don't watch a porn video when you're feeling horny. Just learn how to be activated, and then learn how long it takes for it just to simmer down by itself. It may seem impossible, but if we just kind of learn the patience, okay, I'm activated, I'm really angry, I'm so angry. Okay, I'm not going to do anything. Now, how long does it take for it just to evaporate? Yeah, it may take a little while. Maybe the first hour doesn't really do much, but over time, it just kind of goes down. Let's say I have a panic attack or an anxiety attack. I want to do something, I need to do something. Just let it be a panic attack. Don't do anything, and see how long it takes to evaporate naturally. It will evaporate. Okay, so we learn the rhythms, and we learn techniques to just kind of not always respond by acting out. And so when I'm activated, really activated, if I need to let it cool down, I start learning how my body cools down. Like in my case, I spend about an hour with no changes. I kind of like, I'm simmering for like an hour. Then after a while, it just kind of goes down. So you kind of have to learn your own system. And then finally, the most important thing is to have a life, where you have real skills like pastimes, hobbies, and really developing self-esteem for being good at different things. It's so important. And I guess the final thing to me, I would seek addiction recovery support group. Okay, and I would claim myself to be an addict. I would just say it, even if it doesn't make sense, but it does make sense, because we know what our addictions are. Or because when you look at it, addiction really is habituation. We're habituated to living way too much in the sugar high, in the serotonin, in the dopamine. And so we need to, I think, seek a support group, in the form of addiction recovery, just as a structure to sort of remind us of our commitments. So thank you.